So let's touch on this issue now. The Minister of Environmental, Forestry and Fisheries is inviting the public to give their input on the registration of environmental assessment practitioners' processes. The Minister intends to amend the Act which regulates the registration of environmental assessment practitioners. Joining us now to talk a little bit more about this is Snowy Makhudu, who is the chairperson of the Environmental Assessment Practitioners Association of South Africa. Snowy, good to have you. Welcome.
Good morning, and good morning to the viewers.
So please explain to us, I'm busy tripping all over it, what is the environmental assessment practitioner? What do they do?
Firstly, let me start with what is an environmental assessment practitioner. Those are the practitioners that are focusing on making sure that when you have listed activities, before you start with any development, which is listed in the National Environmental Management Act, what is it that you have to do from your EIA processes to finally saying, how do we actually post the approval, which is environmental authorization, do an environmental management program. So the IPASA board is the board that looks at all these EAPs, or what we call environmental assessment practitioners.
Okay, so the idea now is that the minister wants to amend the current act. Why? What has been the issue?
I guess the issue has been there are several other aspects that needs to be unpacked. Firstly, to say, how do we actually regulate that particular sector? Once we have certain members that are registered, you probably know that there are several practitioners, as in accountants, as in doctors, that are regulated according to their own acts.
Yeah.
And this particular one is to actually make sure that the role of IPASA is pronounced properly, and then we encourage that the sector is properly managed. There's quality assurance that needs to be there. There's transformation that needs to be there, just to mention two of those.
A few issues.
Yes.
So those are the things
Yes.
that the minister wants to see change and wants to see different. So the public's input, I imagine, is highly crucial at this time. But from the department's point of view, why is it essential for the public to have their input in it?
It's essential because the extension is actually moving from the 8th of February 2020, and the recommendation there is that it's another 24 months, which takes it to 8 February 2022. So from the public is that, is it too long to wait for this particular sector to be regulated, or is the time frame okay?
Yeah.
If the time frame needs to be shortened, then they can come on board. But I think most importantly is that this particular sector has never been regulated before. In the world, we are one of the first environmental statutory professional bodies. So I think it's something that needs to be balanced, to say, how do you make sure that South Africa is on the map? At the same time, how do you make sure that everybody gets on board, as in the environmental assessment practitioners, and at the same time making sure that the society is happy that we will be regulated as a sector.
Interesting. So I mean, it's going to be it's a lot of work going forward. But in terms of the registration process, what does that all entail?
The regulation process is basically following the national RPL policy. We're looking at everyone making use of the same yardstick. So you have to go through core competencies to make sure that you say, what is it that you know? How do you know it? So basically it looks at the knowledge and the experience of each and every environmental assessment practitioner.
Okay.
And that goes through to the registry, and then the registry looks at whether your application is competent in terms of being forwarded to the assessors, whether it's complete. And in terms of completeness, then you have assessors that have been trained as assessors and regulated by CETA, and those assessors then take through the whole assessment, and then it goes through the registration committee. From there it goes for the board for approval.
Wow. All right. So the big question now, when and where can the public get involved? Because this is really what this is all about, is trying to get the public to get involved, add their views. How do they go about doing that?
The Gazette has been published last week Friday, and it's out there in the open for 30 days, or for public to comment or have input. And all the information is there, and in terms of the contact person, there is Ms. Sibu Hlela, who can be contacted in terms of information and inputs or comments that comes from public.
Yeah. Now, I mean, is this as the chairperson of the Environmental Practitioners Association, is it a good thing? I mean, are you all in favor of this?
It is a good thing for the sector. However, the time frame needs to be...
Is a challenge.
Yes,
So you feel that needs to be
at.
reviewed. What would you ideally think? I mean, how long should something like this actually take?
Personally, 6 months is the utmost, because I guess there are several other legislation or legal frameworks that have gone through this. So 6 to 8 months would probably the utmost maximum period that we're looking at.
Well, we'll keep an eye on this one. It is a big one that we certainly need to watch. And those that are affected by this industry, as you heard, it's your turn to have your say and your views. Snowy Makhudu is the chairperson of the Environmental Practitioners Association of South Africa, and talking to us about that public process that is now currently underway. Thanks very much for joining us, and we look forward to an update from you as well.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Right, we'll take a break. More for you after this. Do stay tuned.